Hello, 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 everyone. This is Telehealth Tuesday. Welcome to another edition. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Bookhardt, and this is your show for insights on modern healthcare and wellness solutions. Before I tell you all about my next guest, well, actually, on this show, I want her to tell you all about herself. I have her bio right here that she has already sent me, but I think on this one, let's switch it up just a little bit. We'll use a little bit of an icebreaker, and we'll let Attorney Zandrea Ware uh, tell you all about herself and her fantastic career and all the things she's doing so far. Before we do that, I want to give a special shout out to all of our good people out there in Instagram land. I see we've got New Ellington, Fancy Fetish, Dollar Duval. We got some new folks in there, so I wanted to give you all a shout out. Thank you all so much for joining us in Instagram land here at Telehealth Tuesday, where we are here each and every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for your viewing and listening pleasure. Now, one other thing, want to let you know that Telehealth Tuesday can be viewed on multiple platforms. Okay, that's right, multiple platforms, including Dr. B TV. That's the word doctor spelled out DOCTOR. The letter B is in boy TV on YouTube, and also Heart of Music. That's HARDT of Music on Instagram, and also Michael Bookhardt MD MVA on Facebook. So please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. So we would love for you all to support this amazing show. We want to greet our guest. She's backstage. She is eager and ready to join the program. So, look, we're going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, hear ye her, the incomparable attorney, Zandrea Ware, Esquire. Give it up. Give it to her.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
this invitation. Honored to be here with you today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. We try to bring you out, Zandra. We're gonna bring you out. We're gonna bring you out.
All right, all
Yeah.
right.
How are you feeling this evening?
I'm good. I'm good. I am excited about our topic for today, mental health and the law, and just again, just honored and excited to be here. There's so much to be done in this field, and we're hoping that this conversation or this dialogue will help push things through and move our state forward, or at least take part in the effort to do so.
Absolutely. Well, before we get started, as just a bit of an icebreaker, I've got your bio as I was telling the listeners, but I would love for you to, because it always kind of translates better coming from
Mhm.
the person themselves. So if you wouldn't mind, would you please let this wonderful audience know all about yourself, where you're from, education and background wise, and what you're doing currently?
Of course, I'm Attorney Zandrea Ware. I'm from Indianola, Mississippi, from the Mississippi Delta. Always a shout out to my Delta folks.
All right.
I graduated from Mississippi State with a degree in psychology. I then moved on with a degree in counseling from the University of Memphis. And after recognizing the plight of the potential clients that I was serving as an intern, and looking into conflict mediation, I decided to go to law school. So after I got my master's in counseling, I went to law school to actually practice in healthcare, specifically mental health. I graduated law school and I became the CEO of and lobbyist for the Mississippi Association of Community Mental Health Centers for nearly a decade. And then I started my own practice and consulting firm, ZK Ware Law, where I'm the managing attorney. I primarily practice transactional work, but my passion is still to this day mental health. And so I do take some criminal cases and try to navigate or help my clients in criminal law or within the criminal justice system through the mental health process and the services and support in our state. I do a little bit of estate planning now, and also some small businesses work for, general counsel type work, but primarily my practice is transactional.
Awesome. You know, thank you for letting us know those things. One of the things on your bio that was interesting, right at the bottom of it, you had something that really, that really grabbed my attention, and it said, "Driven by purpose, grounded in service, Zandrea Ware continues to lead with integrity, bridging the gap between law, policy, and people." I don't know if you want to expound on it, like what when you came up with that, does that truly that embodies everything that you stand for? Because that stood out to me. What drove you to come up with the language in that way, or describe yourself that way?
In anything that I do or endeavor, I am very much purpose driven. And I have um, very much put in my professional and personal life integrity above everything, especially as I try to be an advocate for again in my lobbying days for the countless Mississippians struggling with mental illness, but also my clients from the small businesses to the misdemeanor criminal defendant that I'm representing. And it's always, again, about integrity, um, having purpose or being purpose driven. And looking to seek solutions and being solution focused. So, definitely just who I am in general. And I try to make sure I convey that to the people that I serve.
Awesome, awesome. Well, all right. Without further ado, we've got several pre-prepared questions here. Uh, that's an inside joke for y'all. So we want to let you guys know before we start with these pre-prepared questions that this is live. Okay, this is live. Attorney Ware is here. In addition to the things that she's got, some things she's very passionate about. We're going to get to as many as we can. But look, stop us at any time, guys. I'm going to help moderate this thing. And if there's something you have a burning question or comment, something you want us to just another topic to discuss, please don't hesitate right there in the comments. Whether you're viewing from LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, all of those are active, and so you can make your comments, and I'll be monitoring through our software. So, all right, first question, Attorney Ware. Um, Actually, I'm going to skip that health questions part because I'll go over that later. How does being in the criminal justice system, whether it's jail, court, or probation, how does being in that criminal justice system affect someone's mental and physical health long term?
I think for a lot of individuals, especially in our prison system or in jails, are often dehumanized. And so that is a traumatic experience. And not to say that, some of these people have committed horrendous crimes, but they're still human.
Hmm.
And so once we've had, situations not only just in the state, but nationwide, where individuals do not feel as if they are treated as a human, a decent human. And so that trauma, I think, inflicts, if they don't have a mental illness or some type of injury, psychologically, that injures them in and of itself. And then there's, of course, a number of cases where you see violence, suicide, and other things in the prison system that they not only have to witness, but also may be a victim of some sort of crime. So I think just being a part of that system is just traumatic for them
Hmm.
all around. Having to watch your back constantly produces a lot of anxiety for incarcerated individuals as well. And
Hmm.
so it does play a role in their mental health, but also if you're a medical doctor, any type of anxiety or PTSD also causes physical health issues or challenges such as high blood pressure, not getting the right nutrition in jails will also lead to those type of heart issues, and again, diabetes and that sort of thing. So just not getting the proper care or knowing how to care for self properly or having the right tools within the system is traumatic, not only on the mental health, but on the physical health of the being as well.
Absolutely. And, you said so many things, of course, and I agree with 100% agree with everything. One of the things that jumps out to me, and especially when I was doing my work full time as a hospitalist, we were taking care of the majority of the inmates here in Jackson, Mississippi. That is for all of our viewers, because you know what, Zandra, we had a gentleman. He was logging on. So if you guys are watching, if y'all were on here a couple of weeks ago, there was a guy said, "Hey, I'm saying hey all the way from like Bali or somewhere." He was way on the other side of the world. So for those of you who don't know, we're broadcasting live from Jackson, Mississippi. But when I was working with the inmates, we were taking care of these inmates, and like you said, everybody should be treated, as a person. It doesn't matter that they happen to be incarcerated, but nevertheless, one thing that really stuck out and it really rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, people know me. I was really fired up, like some language I can't even use on this platform. But there was a gentleman that came in,
Mhm.
and like you were saying, he was not getting his hypertension meds, blood pressure meds. He was on lisinopril. And I remember seeing this guy on three separate occasions. First occasion, he came in for something mild, like a pneumonia or something like that. We treated him. I noticed his blood pressure was high, prescribed him lisinopril, 20 milligrams. When he comes back, his blood pressure's through the roof. He's meeting criteria for what we call hypertensive emergency. This guy at some point has had a stroke in the prison. And why did he have a stroke? Because he simply did not get his darn medicine. And then he comes
Mhm.
back again, hypertensive emergency, stroke, unable to use one side of his body. And now he's on dialysis because his kidneys have been burnt out because he was not able to get a $4 medication called lisinopril. And at Publix, back home in Florida, at Publix, lisinopril is free. So basically, not
Okay.
getting a free medication, these folks are incarcerated. And I'm not saying this happens to everybody, but from a medical perspective, he's not even the only one. This is just one of many. But man, that thing,
Mhm.
oh my God, I was so pissed off. I'm gonna be honest. Again, I don't even want to talk no more about it right now. But I'm just gonna say when you talked about these folks who are not
Mhm.
getting the care that they need, and it that really upset me. So, all right, I'll move on my soapbox. Um, let's go to
I
our
can imagine.
let's go to our next question. So, would you say that you know what? Let's go to another question. How does growing up around trauma, for example, violence, poverty, neglect, growing up around those different types of trauma, how does that overall affect a person's health, and their chances of getting involved with the justice system?
I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned early on in my counseling career.
Hmm.
I'll give you a story before I answer the question. But I was taking a class, getting ready to intern, and one of my professors mentioned he worked with incarcerated individuals
Hmm.
who was the worst class of incarcerated individuals to work with, and they were the ones who were molested by their mothers,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you because we
Yes.
hear about this with the men, the uncles, and are you saying
Yes.
they were molested by their mothers?
Yes, they are within the criminal justice system, some of the hardest people to work with, right? And
Oh,
so that changed my perspective each time I met with a client, not necessarily they were abused or molested, but I looked at, and I still do this to this day, what happened to you? Like what got you here? And we see people who are within the criminal justice system, and the again crimes that they've committed or things that they've done, that were not within the law,
hmm.
but we do not know their past trauma and how they were raised and what they were exposed to at an early age with which does significantly impact their behavior later on as adults. And so I very much think that, if you raise within a violent environment, that's all you know. You don't know peace. If you're raised in a peaceful environment, you don't know violence. And of course, there are some people that don't necessarily do as they were raised, but in most instances, you see people who have come from impoverished communities,
Hmm.
who've only known violence, only known, the life of crime, or seen their parents or other people that they looked up to commit these types of crimes. And so that puts them in a position to say, this is all I know. This is the life that's been handed to me.
Hmm.
There are a number of people that overcome these types of situations. And, I applaud them. I've seen countless situations of such. But again, just being in a violent environment also creates, we talked about trauma before, the trauma,
Hmm.
and that it breeds mental illness, right? That breeds aggression, anger. And you
Right.
wonder why, you'll hear teachers even say for some children, they're so aggressive, they're so angry. When they look into the home, and they're fighting, and they're getting in trouble in school. And when you look into the home, there's abuse of some sort, or there's some type of neglect. And so as each year passes by, these individuals, that's all they know, a life of crime, or at least what they were taught or what they saw. However, there is hope. There is hope. And that's why advocacy is so important, whether it's in the school system, the prison system, the court system, to recognize these individuals who have been exposed to some horrible things, and to get them the care, support, and treatment that they need.
Absolutely. Um, I'm just getting back to our folks on Instagram. I'm going back and forth between the platforms while we're talking because still, I'm gonna have to write a memo to my software because they don't merge. So
Mhm.
we've got to manage both of them. But this is so important. The interesting thing was when I first talked to you months ago about being on. Now I knew you're an attorney, but it was interesting that until you honestly sent me your bio, I had no idea that you had the counseling and the psychology type background. And so I see that that's truly your forte. You know what? So did you always did you always knew you would go the route of becoming an attorney as well, or were you thinking at first being an actual counselor and therapist?
So I was en route to becoming a psychologist after I got my master's. But during the program, like I said, I was, and I've always wanted to work in psychology or human behavior since I was little.
Okay.
So that has always been my thing. Never wanted to go to law school, never thought about it. I started having some contemplation just because of the advocacy piece, not necessarily looking to litigate. And when I was graduating December, I think 2007, from my no 2006, from my master's program, our speaker was a lawyer, and she mentioned all the things that you could do with the law degree. You don't have to litigate, and these are the things that, I don't remember what she did, but she wasn't a traditional lawyer. And I took that as my sign in December, studied for the LSAT for about a week, and
Hmm.
got into three of the four law schools that I applied to, and went on to law school that next fall.
One,
Just
only one. I'm sorry. You grabbed me with another one now. Only 1 week you studied the LSAT.
Yeah, I did. Because I wasn't. I felt like, and this is totally off subject, but I'm going to share this story. I was like, there's no way, God, you want me to do this, like, really. But I'm kind of one of those people where if it keeps coming before me, then that's God pushing me to
Hmm.
do that. And so I knew advocacy was key with the individuals we serve, because at the time we learned about managed care and how people, and I saw it firsthand, weren't getting the services they needed in our communities because they didn't have the insurance available, or managed care would not provide them with access to certain things that they needed. I just kind of took it as God's plan and said, "Hey, I don't know if I took it serious or not, because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get into law school. And I just made this decision, and so yeah, I studied a week, and it was God's plan."
That's definitely got to be God's plan, because I've heard of several other people and folks that I went to undergrad with college, and
Mhm.
they were saying similar stories like, "Oh yeah, I just took the MCAT. Oh, I didn't even study at all." And I said, I was like, I hate you people. I don't really hate anybody, guys. So if anybody's taking that serious, I don't hate anybody.
God's plan. That's all it was. Yeah, I have
Absolutely.
to tell you about the bar later.
Okay.
How
All
it
right.
worked out.
Okay. All right, definitely. Just do a quick pause for the calls. I see our viewers are jumping up, so I want to just take a pause for the calls, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. Matter of fact, I want to give another round of applause, because this is probably one of our highest viewerships yet. So give a round of applause to yourselves, and give a round of applause to Attorney Zandrea Ware. Give it to her. Throw that one in there. So we want to let you all know this is Telehealth Tuesday. We're live in the building. We are here with Attorney Zandrea Ware of ZK Ware Law, PLLC. And this is Telehealth Tuesday. We're here for your listening and viewing pleasure and edification every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, from 7 to 8. Now, sometimes that does go a little over. Sometimes we have technical difficulties, but God said not tonight. The devil has been prevented, no technical difficulties, and that's what we are claiming, and that's what is actually happening. So we are so happy that you all are joining us. Again, we're here every Tuesday, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. We're talking about all things criminal justice. We're talking things with medicine always, and the fight for equity, which is the title of our show. But we have just since learned that Attorney Ware also has degrees in counseling, therapy, psychology, and we have been talking about the impact on your mental health when it comes to, especially being imprisoned, and the when we talk about fight for equity, those that are in prison, and talking about the lack of empathy, the lack of health care that these unfortunate folks are receiving. And like we said, no matter what you did to get in there, everybody does deserve justice. Legally, they deserve their time in court. We know that doesn't happen in this day and age, but everybody should darn well have appropriate access to health care, just being a human being. So, all right, let's go back to it. We got some more folks. We got welcome to Perkins. I think that's one of our newer viewers here to our YouTube channel. We've got my good friend Jasmine Briscoe, who's got some questions. Jasmine, Zandra, look, Jasmine, I always make a joke. You haven't been on here in a couple of weeks, Jasmine, but she's with us every episode. She's a licensed massage therapist, and this young lady is amazing at what she does. She's always going to find some way to relate whatever show I've got going on to massage. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. But we appreciate you. Real quick, so Jet Setter Janelle, my good friend from Oakwood University, shout out to Oakwood, Huntsville, Alabama. Jet Setter Janelle I wanted her to let us know her podcast is called Solo Travel on YouTube. She said, I'm on the road to 1,000. So we're talking about 1,000 viewers. So big shout out to you. She has it's basically a channel where she talks about vacations, and it's amazing. You got to check that out. Connie Daniels, hello to you from Orlando, Florida. Thank you for joining. Let's go to Jasmine's question. So Jasmine has a question for Zandrea. Hey, where exactly are you located? Okay, so she's just asking where are you located. Thank you for your experience and information.
Well, I'm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and thank you for participating. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, and we'll at the end of the show, Jasmine, as usual, we'll put her information up there, and she can let you know exactly if you plan to have a consultation. All right, let me check
Okay.
Instagram. We've got I see Driscoll on there from the best number one fraternity in the world. There's none other, and also the best chapter, Alpha Phi Alpha Incorporated. My frat brothers on there, and also Dr. Terrence Ware, the wonderful husband of Attorney Zandrea Ware. Excuse me. So he is on there joining us as well. All right. So let's talk about another question here we had. Do people, in terms of patient rights, community empowerment, do people in jail or prison, do they have the right to, well, I mean, this is an obvious question, but do these people have the right to see a doctor or talk to a counselor if they are struggling mentally or emotionally?
Yes. So we, in fact, had some investigations by the Department of Justice as recent as, I think, 2024 that said that Mississippians who were incarcerated were there were some constitutional violations based on them not getting adequate health care, specifically mental health care, for them not to be for the violence I think that they were being exposed to unnecessarily, and some other things. But I will say that the Mississippi Department of Corrections, and I did some research on this recently, um, they do provide screening for individuals who may have a mental health issue, as well as I feel like the physical health aspect of it as well. They provide anger management, they provide mental health therapy inside the prisons and jails.
Hmm.
They provide also group therapy and other supportive um, services and supports. However, there has been suggestion again from the DOJ that they're not doing enough. And one of those issues would be funding, the lack of funding for these types of programs, the lack of personnel for the programs as well within the jails, as well as helping them re enter the community. But they're providing these services. We just don't know to what degree they can provide them for, and let's say it's sustainable care. But they do have that right to still get the medical attention that they need.
Okay, and uh, so we talked about. I gave an example of a patient who unfortunately suffered a stroke and what we call hypertensive, excuse me, hypertensive emergency, and later, basically, I say for lack of a better word, burned out his kidneys because of uncontrolled blood pressure, and
Mhm.
ended up on dialysis. So,
Mhm.
what do these folks do? Like, is there some type of person, some type of champion they can contact when they're not getting the resources or the help they need? I'm talking about the prisoners or the inmates or their families.
I would say there are a number of nonprofit organizations that represent those individuals who are incarcerated who've not, and I don't know any specifically that work for
Okay.
those with physical health issues. But again, because I've done so much work in the mental health field, there are a number of organizations that they can reach out to in regard to their mental health treatment, starting with the Mississippi Department of Mental Health as one. But as far as nonprofits, I would say Disability Rights Mississippi is a forerunner in
Okay.
that community, in ensuring that the rights of those individuals who have mental illness do have access to services and care within the jails, and they are not being unnecessarily institutionalized.
Hmm.
So again, I would at least recommend for family members to be the first advocate. When you have family support, and a lot of our individuals who are in jail or prison, they don't have mom or dad or sister or someone else to just give a simple phone call and say, hey, we hear that he's not getting his medication. I think that, we all should be empowered to be able to do that for our family members. But oftentimes, these individuals do not have that support. But that was my, again, number one go to is the family. Besides the family, there are a number, again, nonprofits such as Disability Rights Mississippi. I'm not sure about the ACLU, but a number of groups have emerged that will readily provide care and support for those who are lacking the services.
Gotcha. Let's move on to yeah, like we were talking, community-based mental health services. So this is an interesting question here. Uh, in your view, what role should the state government play in strengthening community mental health infrastructure?
All right. So, just as a background, so the community mental health infrastructure of Mississippi is primarily comprised of the regional community mental health centers. Here locally, we have Hines Behavioral Health, which is Region 9, Region 8, which is more Rankin County, and a lot of other counties. In this area, but the community mental health centers span across the state of Mississippi. Um, One of the things that we worked on, and they're continuously working on, is funding. So if there's anything the government could do, state or on a national level, is to provide adequate funding for these services, because they're out there in the trenches, they're doing the work, they're providing the services, but a lot of times it's just primarily dependent on grants. And so those grants will either come from the state through the Department of Mental Health, and more often than not, the federal government. And so we have a lot of our money that comes from Medicaid. Um, and as you know, those services and support and the Medicaid program has continuously dwindled down. And so those supports that we were getting or we could get with enhanced Medicaid payments for the community mental health centers, they've been turned down by the state of Mississippi. So if we could get adequate funding to sustain programs, everybody has great ideas. There's legislation that's been passed for many years, but at each point they say, well, who's going to pay for this? So that would be number one. Number two would be education regarding the stigma of mental health. Even as a lobbyist, I've encountered people who were representing citizens of Mississippi who said, I don't want the crazies in my neighborhood.
Mm,
Um, and you're here to represent not only those individuals who do not have mental illness, but um, those individuals who are suffering and their families as well. And that was their take on it. A lot of these individuals are not um, are on Medicaid or possibly impoverished. Socioeconomics plays a role.
mhm.
So reducing the stigma of mental illness, providing the funding for sustainable care and adequate care, as we continue to see that and recognize mental health disparities, and also just having our legislators be advocates and not um, for mental illness, and not just primarily focus on physical health issues or challenges that we face in Mississippi.
So you talked about uh, folks that said, I don't want to live amongst the crazies. I'm paraphrasing. I
Mhm.
would, I would like our viewers to know and understand that, and I'm also quote or paraphrasing this from someone else years ago. Please know that there are a lot of people that are walking around unmedicated. So, in other words, there's a lot of people just because folks have a diagnosis of schizophrenia, bipolar, or they're incarcerated, please make sure you know that there's a lot of people out here that have not gone to a therapist or a psychiatrist or psychiatrist because they need to be medicated. There's a lot of folks walking around here that need to be medicated. So just because someone you can have neighbors, people, your next door neighbor could have undiagnosed bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, uh, some weird personality disorder. I've got a couple of neighbors that
Mhm.
certainly have personality disorders. But anyway, I digress. So
Well,
let's
I would like to add to that too that one of the things that we've been promoting as a state and has passed so that local governments would provide mental health first aid training for individuals in the community, so that they can recognize when a neighbor or family member or someone else, especially in the churches, where they can recognize mental illness and help these people get the services and supports that they need. So
yes,
there is some education push for education surrounding mental health, but as you know, again, people are undiagnosed or underdiagnosed. Um, quite readily, and it is up to us as, again, as advocates, as neighbors, as
mhm,
friends, to be compassionate enough to say, hey, there's something wrong. But we also have to be educated, and so that's where programs like mental health first aid come in, where people can know these are the signs and symptoms, and this is something that we may need to look into further and get this person help.
absolutely. We have a comment by Jasmine. Jasmine says that trauma can change your entire world, including mental health and how you view situations. And Jasmine, and before I get to my next question with Attorney Ware, because I'm going to pivot to another one. But I'm so glad that you brought that up, Jasmine, because especially in the African American community, and even from my standpoint in primary care now, we see so much trauma, that affects us and affects us, and not just African Americans, but I'm specifically talking about African Americans right now. Trauma is, man, it's so huge. We've had trauma from childhood, things that we didn't even know were going on from the time we might have been in the womb. If the mother and father have some disputes or issues, a lot of people say, hey, the developing baby can feel that. So that's a trauma transmitted before the child even takes his first breath. Then you're born. You may be born no matter what's going on, whether it's single parent household or you can have both parents and you still experiencing hell on wheels in that house. And so you're seeing trauma. You're seeing trauma between the parents, husband and wife, mom and daddy, or whatever's going on, seeing that and not even realizing, understanding it. And then how Zandra, you talked about even the cases of where mothers were molesting the children, which I mean, that's just even more far out of sight. And so, what I'm saying is, these people grow up to be adults with the same trauma, with the same burdens, with the same baggage, if you will. And that's probably all of us included. We all have some form of trauma or baggage, and we bring that into the next situation, whether the job, the next relationship, for those that are married, and then when you have children, because you come in from this traumatic background, some of that stuff, unfortunately, is moved on to the children. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is it's so important to have proper counseling, and in our, uh, coming from our ethnicity or from our minorities, African Americans, we rely so much on the church, and of course that is extremely important. We wouldn't be anything without God, but sometimes faith without works is dead, and sometimes you need to go to the mental health professionals because that trauma. I mean, you get where I'm going. Okay, Jasmine saying I'm ready to help advocate. All right, I'm heading. I know you're gonna relate it to massage somehow, Jasmine. Come on. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. Okay, let's see. I know the time is passing quickly. Do you think, Vandra, you think you might be able to hang with us till about 8:10 p.m., about 10 minutes over? You think?
Yes, of course, I can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Um, let's talk about the civil commitment process in the state of Mississippi. Can you walk us through the challenges of Mississippi's civil commitment process? And I guess before walking us through those challenges, maybe if you could just make sure the audience understand what is commitment.
Okay, so civil commitment process is where an individual is a threat to themselves or others and need institutionalized care, or they need to be in an inpatient setting, and that is again for their safety and or the safety of others. So with that process, there was legislation that passed recently into 2024 that required the community mental health centers to provide a pre-screening evaluation, or pre-affidavit evaluation or screening, to ensure that this individual indeed or in fact has a mental illness before they are put, quote unquote, in the criminal justice system. One of the issues or challenges as I go, and I'll still go, I'll walk through the process, but I'll talk about the challenges as I go. One of the challenges we've had for many years, and the mental health system has been under fire through the Department of Justice as well for this, was that we were unnecessarily institutionalizing people or holding them in jails while they were waiting on an evaluation
Mm,
from a doctor, which back in the day it had to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and those individuals are not readily available in the state of Mississippi. There's actually a nationwide shortage of these professionals.
wow.
So that is has been the major challenge. So all of the things that have been done recently, and I'm about to go through the process,
Okay.
has been done to ensure that people are not sitting in jail waiting on an evaluation. So they do the individual, either a family member, law enforcement, counselor, or judge, can recommend this person for screening. Once that screening is done, um, and the screener says, yes, we need to move on, this person needs to be picked up, the affidavit is filed, and then the clerk issues a writ directing the sheriff to pick the person up for further evaluation. There the person would need to be evaluated within 48 hours. It used to be, it could be 2 or 3 weeks, it could be a month, but they have made sure that they've incorporated in our legislation that it's within 48 hours, 24 ideally, but 48 at the most. These people are evaluated by a doctor, two doctors, and or nurse practitioner. And then if there is reason to believe that this person should be in an inpatient setting, the chancellor will have a hearing. After that, they could be committed to potentially outpatient care
Mhm.
or an inpatient setting. But again, this is where you see a number of people um, believe that the name Whitfield, I guess, is synonymous to the inpatient setting. So
Mhm.
when someone has been committed to Whitfield, and there are other centers that are similar to that that are not um, managed by the Department of Mental Health, but that's what the civil commitment process looks like. It has to go through the court system. You can't, as a family member, say this person is in crisis, or even a practitioner, and just send them to Whitfield due to constitutional constraints. We have to make sure that that person's due process rights are reflected in the process, and so again, there's a hearing, there's a commitment, and then they may be there. I think the initial commitment could be up to 3 months. But that process, again, has faced many challenges, but the primary challenge has been, where do we place these people while they're waiting to be evaluated? Where do we place them after they've been evaluated and there are no beds in Whitfield, or there are no beds at the crisis stabilization units that are throughout the state? And a lot of times they're in the care of their local jails, which is not constitutional, right, per se. But there are no other facilities to house them. So that has been an issue with, again, funding or lack thereof, but also just a matter of treating them like human beings and not like criminals. And so that's
Right.
again how the criminal justice system interacts with mental health quite a bit, because you have a number of people who should be in treatment facilities
Mhm.
that have not committed crimes. So let's go back to that. So there are some people who have been in crisis and are violent or killed someone or something, horrendous happened, and they do place them in jail, or potentially, if they're incompetent to stand trial, in a forensic unit. And there's a new unit there at um, Whitfield or at the state hospital. So there is a different process for those individuals who have committed violent crimes. So we're not talking about them. We're talking about those people who have maybe disturbed the peace or done something that is not necessarily violent, but we know that they need inpatient care in order to get sustainable treatment.
Mm, absolutely. Uh, let's go to a couple of comments we have. I'm going to go right to Ebony. So she is joining us here from the YouTube world. So good evening to you, Ebony. Thank you for joining. She has looks like a comment here. The recidivism in jails is ridiculous due to untreated mental health issues. Once released, they stop taking their meds and then return. The jails are the new mental health facilities.
Yes. So we've as a state have done, and I say we when I talk about the state of Mississippi, but we as a state we've made some progress. Department of Mental Health has enlisted peer support specialists who have been in the criminal justice system, who also suffered from a mental illness, to follow these individuals once they are released, to hopefully reduce recidivism, but also make sure that they're going to their scheduled appointments and helping them navigate the mental health system once they're out
Mhm.
of jail or prison. We also have programs, again, through the Mississippi Department of Corrections, that provide case management services, therapy, and whatnot. But again, some of these things, if not required, these individuals just kind of fall by the wayside, or there's not enough staff to follow each and every individual who's in need of services. So, due to, again, lack of funding, personnel issues, it just doesn't work. So, she's absolutely correct that the recidivism rates are generally high if those individuals do not have reentry programs to assist them upon their release.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, that's a great point, Ebony. That's a great point. Let me go back up to Jasmine. So I think I'm going to try to follow this along. So Jasmine, you were letting us know. You said a few comments. You said I'm ready to advocate. I have three sons, and then you mentioned from head injury in sports. So let's see, you're saying getting attacked at work and not being protected by an employer, then losing your job and your attacker keeps their job. So, and Jasmine, just correct me if I'm wrong, I'm interpreting what you're saying here. Are you saying basically that the person who gets attacked, who is the victim, who is innocent, they're attacked, and you're saying that the person with obvious mental illness is allowed to keep their job and keep on working, while the person who's attacked, they have to recover and suffer whatever consequences, possibly even losing their job. But meanwhile, this person who's actually been violent with an obvious mental illness is still allowed to continue working. I think that's where you're going with that. Is that let us know let us know, Jasmine. In the meantime, we've got a few other. See, Zandra, I told you, I said they just start the questions pouring in. So we do all that prep, and which is fine because we're always prepared. But especially with these hot topics and things, it's just they're just gonna, we get some great participation. Okay, she was saying, I was saying that could affect your mental health. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so another question we had. So you know, and you just so basically for those who are just joining, Attorney Ware just walked us through some of the challenges of Mississippi's civil commitment process. And again, we're live here in the building each and every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Telehealth Tuesday. We're here with Attorney Zandrea Ware, ZK Law, PLLC, based out of Jackson, Mississippi, by way of Indianola, Mississippi. That is in the Delta.
Right.
All right. All right.
Mhm.
Let's go to criminal. Let's go to criminal justice. Well, actually, let's go to crisis intervention and law enforcement. Uh, you know, have you seen? I'll tell you what. What are the biggest risks facing individuals in mental health crisis when law enforcement is the first responder? I want to say that again to make sure everybody, for the people in the back. Um, let me go. That's my question. Okay. What are the biggest risk factors, the biggest risks facing individuals in mental health crisis when law enforcement is the first responder?
So, of course, our respect to our law enforcement because they protect us and serve every day.
Absolutely.
But one of the issues is that they do not know how to recognize mental illness when they see it. And so, when they see someone who is acting out or has erratic behavior because of a mental illness, and it's a manifestation of their illness, they just see someone committing a crime or acting out, disturbing the peace.
Hmm.
Um, and they sometimes, of course, and we've seen it quite often, use force, sometimes deadly force, in order to get these people to calm down.
Hmm.
And so, one of the issues, of course, is not being able to recognize that someone is within a mental health crisis or having symptoms of their mental illness. And the second is not knowing how to de escalate these individuals properly by, because of course, what if you're dealing with someone with extreme PTSD,
Hmm.
or schizophrenia? They're thinking that you're there to kill them, so they're trying to protect themselves. But again, they have illness that is making them think in that way. And so, what the state of Mississippi has done recently, and kudos to law enforcement and other advocates who have really stepped up to make sure that this is statewide, is that they're requiring each law enforcement agency to have crisis intervention teams, or at least two officers that are trained as crisis intervention trained police officers. And so they learn how to de-escalate, how to recognize mental illness. If someone is in crisis, if 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 a police officer shows up to the scene and they're not one of those CIT officers, they will call them in, so that there's some help there. The other part of that is, the community mental health centers provide mobile crisis response teams. And so that is a coordination of care between law enforcement, mental health therapists or counselors, and they're around the clock 24/7. You can call them, a family member could call them before calling the police or in
Hmm.
conjunction with calling the police, and they'll arrive there as a team to de-escalate the situation. So there are a number of things that we're doing in the state to help prevent these incidents where police officers just show up and arrest or um, you know do some things to these individuals who again have a manifestation of illness. The other part of that is, um, if that is missed, because I personally had a client who was suffering from what I thought was severe mental illness. It was
Mhm.
clear, clear as day, and the officers didn't pick up on it. I ended up watching the videos and seeing all of the discovery, and was able to advocate as an attorney to the prosecutor, hey, this is my client. He's suffering from X, Y, and Z. How can we divert him to treatment, or what can we do to lessen his sentence so
Mhm.
that he can get the care that he needs? But again, that will require people within the legal system, whether it's an attorney, the judges, or other people, if it's not seen on the front end through crisis intervention or mobile crisis teams, to say or to recognize that there is an issue, and to help that person navigate the system so that they can get the support that they need. In the courts, once they're there, there are counties that have mental health courts. I think some of them are still up and running, or not up and running, but starting to get up and running. And then drug courts for those individuals who have substance abuse disorders. So um, again, it's all about recognizing, or at least having the education to recognize the person is not necessarily being combative, but well, they may be combative, but it is a product of an illness. And so, educating our officers has been a big deal. And so, if you get an officer who does not understand, especially, and I think I've seen cases before where family members were trying to, and you may remember this, I think it was a while ago, maybe a guy who was autistic or something was happening, and they were trying to let the officer know, hey, he has this disorder, blah, blah, blah. And they would not listen. And that young man ended up dead, right?
Oh my God.
But we have moved towards showing some compassion. But again, when I'm sure as a police officer, there are a number of instances where you feel like you're in danger. And so you feel you have to protect yourself. But having those officers trained on the front end,
Mhm.
it's just the mental health first aid training is instrumental in reducing those types of incidents.
Wow. Wow. What I was wanted to know. What would you say? How does the stigma that surrounds mental health? How does that like basically that negative stigma around mental health? How does that influence people's outcomes?
Well, the stigma of mental illness, and I've seen this again firsthand, prevents people from getting the help that they need. When they do recognize, I need help, or my child needs help, or my mother, or father, or sister, brother, whomever it is, because we don't want to be looked down upon, we just
Hmm.
do not get the treatment that we need or the services we need. And when we talk about mental health, let's just not think about schizophrenia or bipolar or things that requires some type of psychosis. It could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be those things where you can function throughout the day, not get in trouble, but you need assistance in some way. But the stigma of what others would think, I'm
Hmm.
assuming, has prevented a number of people from getting the care that they not only they need but that they deserve.
Wow. That's really sad. That's really unfortunate because again, we talked about that people are just, no matter what they've done, we're all human beings, and
Hmm.
everybody deserves, due process, and which again we know that that doesn't happen, but everybody should have access to these things. A few other questions here before we conclude this episode. Um, do you feel honestly that the Mississippi Department of Corrections is adequately equipped to treat mental illness amongst these incarcerated individuals? Do you feel like this state, the MDOC, Are they truly equipped to treat mental illness? Your real,
My real
real,
answer. Okay.
real.
Well, and I like to say this before I answer because I know just through my work how hard not only the Mississippi Department of Corrections, but the Mississippi Department of Health, the community mental health centers, and all of the advocates. I know how much they have tried to create opportunities for
Hmm.
growth, and that growth was stunted most of the time by the lack of funding. Um, I will say that um, some things are out of their control.
Hmm.
However, I do not think that in general a prison or a just a jail even is equipped to be a provider of mental health care and services, or to adequately treat those individuals, because there are just a number of issues surrounding all of the things that happen within the criminal justice system and the people that they serve, particularly just trying to keep them safe on a day-to-day basis, right? So I know that there are reasons why some things are not in place. Do I think that they could do a better job? Absolutely. But again, that will um, equate to better funding,
Hmm.
being able to have the personnel available to provide the services and support, and that's in the jail as they try to re-enter our communities. But I I think one of the things that they've worked on recently was supportive employment and trying to navigate housing, which has been an issue as people are released from jails or prisons as well. So
Hmm.
there's been some work, but there is much more work to do. And I just don't think that we have the structure in place as a state, which many states do not, um, to for me to confidently say they're doing a great job.
Mm. Okay.
It's I don't think, I wouldn't just put it on the agency itself, if that makes sense. There are a number of factors that are weighing into my opinion.
Okay, all right. That was a. I appreciate that. It was, you gave it was nuanced. It was, but you kind of hit all the, yeah. But I get where you're going. Jasmine had, let me scroll back. She was, ladies and gentlemen, that question that well, the comment that she mentioned about someone having a head injury and getting attacked at work. I was trying to make sure that I wasn't leading it the wrong way. She says no. The attacker had no mental illness, but the victim. Okay, you're saying the victim was left feeling helpless. Basically, this person was attacked at work. The attacker, but you're saying the attacker had no mental illness, but the victim is left feeling helpless. I got you. Okay. Um, She said, I really appreciate the live today. Thank you guys. Awesome. Well, we thank you for always being here, Jasmine, one of our number one supporters. And also big shout out to her licensed massage therapist. I forget, Jasmine, I don't know if you remember the episode. It was way back when we first started, but we had a fantastic episode featuring her. We had a live actress on there. There was a young lady who volunteered to basically be face down on the massage table, and Jasmine was demonstrating with all these different tools and instruments she uses with wood therapy and scraping and all this. Then I also had Dr. North on there, who is a renowned plastic surgeon here in Flowood, who specializes in BBLs and tummy tucks and all kind of things. So yeah, that was amazing. So if you haven't seen that, please go through the archives, Dr. BTV on YouTube, and you can catch that one. Okay. My mother has a comment here. Thank you for joining always. And so glad that she is out of the hospital for the second time. So that is definitely a praise report. We got to give it up for the good Lord. Yeah, the good Lord bringing healing back to her. And she's still struggling with some things, but we're working with her. So, but she is alive and well and here on the line with us. She says mentally ill. Now, wait a minute. That's got to be. Is that a typo? You said I am mentally ill. I don't know. You may want to edit that one. But what you're saying is a mentally ill patient uh, in prison, are they assigned? Okay, are they assigned to a dedicated counselor? Mentally ill patients in prison, are they assigned to a dedicated counselor?
Based on my research, they have, um, and what I know, I guess from practice as well, private companies that they work with or contract with to provide the mental health services at the centers, not the centers, at the jails. I want to say they have designated case managers, but I'm not sure if they see the same therapist all the time. And it varies. So it's probably something we can't necessarily say from facility to facility. But there is, I think that's one of the issues with the system is that there is not a consistent continuum of care where people are seeing the same individual therapists or doctors all the time. I think it's just who's available during that period.
Okay,
But I'm not quite sure. But as far as I know, that's how it works out.
okay. Ashley Joyce, she is joining us from Instagram land. I know Ashley and a wonderful family all the way from Orlando, Florida. Thank y'all for joining. Say hello to your mother for us. Uh, she is asking, they should. Okay, there you put your. All right, she's coming on. I was just putting your comment on there, Ashley, from Instagram land. She said they should have a reentry program that connects them to services before returning to society. She says, I was a case manager at the Orange County Jail in the reentry program. Man, wonderful comment. What say you, Attorney Ware, to this reentry program? Do we have that?
I mentioned the reentry program where they provide housing support,
Yes.
employment, what else? Medication management, integrated case management services. So they do have a program. How impactful it is likely depends on where you are. I'm assuming because Mississippi is more rural than a lot of states, and I think you said she's in Florida, so their system may look a little bit different, but there are programs set in place for reentry into the community, and that support again the housing, the employment, medication management. They provide peer support specialists who follow them and help them get into their appointments and navigate just being in the world again. So there are a number of things that the state has in place. Again, we just don't know how impactful it is as a whole due to lack of funding and personnel issues.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great comments. Great comments. We've got,
Absolutely.
oh man, we're already at 8:16. Oh my goodness. We have gone over. Sorry about that, guys. Sometimes we lose track of time on Telehealth Tuesday. Um, let's go ahead and while we close, we've got some other folks on Instagram joining. Let's go ahead because we don't want to. We want to respect everyone's time, but I would love for Attorney Ware to close out and again for those of you just joining to let you guys know. Uh, where you can find her, what she's doing, how you can contact her, and if she's open to taking on new clients. So please take it away and give everybody that information, please.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. I was
Awesome.
something something happened.
Oh, okay, that's okay. No, I was saying I would love for you to let these listeners know for those that are either just joining us or uh, whatever the situation, to let them know basically, we know who you are, but just let them know who you are, where they can find you, what you're doing, and if you're taking on new clients or not.
Again, I'm Attorney Zandrea Ware, managing attorney for ZK Ware Law PLLC. I also have a consulting firm, Aware Consulting, PLLC. I can be reached at 601 608 7900. Again, that is 601 608 7900. My email address is zkwarelaw@gmail.com. And you can find me there, of course, zkwarelaw@gmail.com. I am taking new clients. Again, I do small business work, some small estate work. Little bit of DUI, criminal work as well. If you have any questions or concerns, or you would love to enlist my services, please reach out. I am Zandrea King Ware.
Awesome, awesome. And we got some final big ups and shout outs from your husband there, Dr. Terrence Ware, my frat brother. So we appreciate you joining and helping to facilitate this, brother.
Thank you, parents.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Well, if there's nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, and Xandra, if you don't mind, you guys, if you'll just stay on with me, we'll mute the mics and run the credits. And then if you'll just stay on with me real quick, that would be great.
And thank you everyone for having me on. I've really enjoyed it. And any questions in mental health advocacy, or if you have a loved one that's experiencing some issues and would love to consult with me about it, I would love to be a legal advocate for them and your family. So I don't want to leave that part out either. That's something that I do as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. And we've truly enjoyed you. And thank you to everyone who has joined with us, who has been here for another episode of Telehealth Tuesday. So thank you all. We were here, God willing, each and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for your viewing, listening, pleasure, and edification. Next week, we will have my good friend, my classmate, Dr. Natasha Pierre, who has a wonderful platform. And we're going to talk about, now we're going to go, we've had a lot of different guests, and, we've had everything from now attorneys, we've had mental health experts, counselors, we've had pastors, we've had comedians, we have had a dentist, but we're waiting on Dr. Terrence Ware to join us on this platform. So we've had amazing guests, but we're going to bring it back to more of the straightforward medicine next week. Dr. Natasha Pierre, a pediatrician, who is going to tell us about her journey to naturopathic medicine and how she has found something amazing so that we can get off all this medication that we're on for hypertension, diabetes, all these things that are killing us, that are making us dependent on medication, and that's making pharmaceutical companies rich. So you don't want to miss next Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Dr. B TV, DOCTOR, the letter B TV. With that said, this is a place where we treat mind, body, and soul. If you have any suggestions or anybody you want to see, or if you want to be featured on, don't hesitate to contact us. And God willing, see you next Tuesday. This is a place where we always remember that true wealth begins with good health. Bye for now.